This is Parker Hesse. This is Sam Branks. You have the pleasure of listening to Hawkeyes and Tallboys. Cheers, motherfuckers.
Welcome to the Hawkeyes and Tallboys podcast, featuring your hosts, Beau Freeborn.
You know, guys, even though we get 2 conference losses, we're still going to end up 9-3. We're going to win the West for sure.
Dylan Pond.
Here's the thing, fellas. I'm going with it. 12-0, baby. We're going to do it. Let's fucking go. Woo!
And Rob Wall.
I mean, that would be shocking. But we can do it. I mean, I think we can.
So crack a tall boy and go Hawks.
Welcome into another episode of Hawkeyes and Tallboys. I'm Rob.
I'm Dylan.
And I'm Beau.
Here we go.
Cheers, fellas. Woo. Oh, yeah.
Well, guys, I certainly do not have COVID because that tastes delicious.
Yeah, that's great. I'm glad that. Beau, are you doing good? No COVID?
You bet, brother.
Perfect.
Thanks.
No COVID symptoms here for me as well. And I want to welcome all our listeners in for another excellent episode. We are going to get into a lot of things that happened last weekend. And we're going to kind of talk about our thoughts and get moving into a great mailbag segment. And then, of course, we're going to preview this Saturday's game as well. So, unfortunately, right now, guys, it is a tough time to be a Hawkeye fan. Last weekend, the Hawks fell to the Northwestern Wildcats 21-20. It was another slow-paced kind of game where it just felt like we weren't able to really get anything going aside from the way we started the game.
Yeah, Rob, it was safe to say it was a nightmare on Melrose. The nightmare on Melrose happened on Halloween Day in Iowa City. My big takeaway, and I know we're going to get into the stats and everything here, but the picks, 3 interceptions thrown by Spencer Petras. Not necessarily all his fault. I'm going to give some blame to the wide receivers there, but unbelievable. Sorry, Rob. I know I interrupted you, but we just had to get into it. I had to start my bitching.
Well, let me tell you, Dill, I don't even blame Spencer Petras for this. I think it's all coaching. I think it's Brian Ferentz 100%. I think they put the ball in his hands too many times. I think we established a run game, and we didn't keep going with it.
What,
and,
you don't suppose 50 times passing the ball is normal for an Iowa
100%. I mean, that's terrible.
That makes no sense.
That's terrible. I don't understand.
No.
Well, guys, so if you didn't watch the game, I'm going to jump into the stats here, and then we'll get into all the good and bad of this game that we can really get into, like what our thoughts and everything else was. But I mean, to be honest with you guys, exactly like I share your sentiment. This game I found myself yelling at the TV more than I think I really ever have watching an Iowa Hawkeye football game. And that being said, it's the first time since the year 2000, the 2000 season, that the Hawkeyes have started their season 0-2. Now, this is a little bit of an asterisk season, as we didn't have any non-conference games to start the season. But regardless, guys, we got to be better than what we showed on last Saturday. So jumping into the stats, so obviously the score 21-20. Hawkeyes led at half 20-14. At the end of the first quarter, we led 17-0, and I thought it was going to be a rout. But like you mentioned, Spencer Petras, our starting quarterback, he was 26 for 50, 216 yards, 1 touchdown, 3 interceptions. Our rushing leader, Tyler Goodson, only had 13 carries, 43 yards, but he did have a touchdown. Amir Smith-Marset was our leading receiver, 7 receptions, 84 yards. On the opposite side of the ball, the Northwestern Wildcats, They kind of started slow. They had some turnovers early that we forced. Our defense forced. But like I said, they came through. They scored in the third quarter to put them up 21-20, and there was no scoring in the fourth quarter. That was kind of a game of field position at that point.
And Rob, Beau touched on this last week where he felt at the end of that Purdue game that really that defense let us down. And when a defense forces 3 turnovers, I mean, basically in the first quarter, and the offense for the most part did its job there, and capitalized on those turnovers and whatnot. So you can't fault them there. But the defense is doing its job there, holding them to a shutout, within the fourth quarter, getting up 17-0. And then for the offense to come out lackadaisical, they got a 17-point lead rather than stepping on the throat. And it's not like Pat Fitzgerald has never done this to an Iowa Hawkeye team before. Oh, wait, yeah, he's done it plenty of times. Like when are we going to fucking learn? Like, that makes no sense to me. And, yeah, sorry, I'm dropping the hard F-bomb. First one of the year, I know. But good God,
No, you're good. I mean, literally, how do you go up 17-0? How are you up at any point in the game by 17 points? And it could have been 21 points.
Yes.
But we had to settle for a field goal.
Yes, agreed. And Rob was going to go into that too. We missed that wide open receiver and Sean Byron in the back of the end zone. And you think about this too, the defense got us stops back where we needed to be. And one thing that we talked about last week was limiting the penalties. Iowa's offense and defense both didn't have a penalty in the first quarter, which really helped us get that 17-0 lead. And it's like, man, if instead of 17, if we would have been up 21-0, had that touchdown, where would we have been?
Right.
Where would the score have differentiated from, at the end of the ball game?
So in your opinion then, Beau, what's the issue there?
I hate to say play calling, but I think 100% it is play calling. I think the defense played its heart out. I think our D-line played a lot better. We called them out week 1, and I think, I think there's a lot of stuff to improve on, but I think play calling on the offensive side, we threw 50 passes. Like, I love Petras. I love the guy, but you got to differentiate the ball when
run the damn ball.
Yes,
the damn ball. You got
three great running backs. Like, we got
exactly
run the ball. Man.
See, and that's so infuriating. And I'm with you. I'm going to go with a little different cause myself because the Hawkeyes came out so hot. I don't want to necessarily dog on the play calling because I loved it. When we were in the first quarter, we were passing to set up the run. That's not my ideal. I don't feel like that's Kirk's ideal way to go about it necessarily, but it was working. Why fucking change it? I get that. What really pissed me off is how sluggish that team looked in the second half. And, is that being lackadaisical, being up by a little bit? Is it conditioning? I don't know what it is, but that's kind of what I lean on, where I felt like, that team just looked tired in the second half. Am I wrong there?
I don't know. I mean, I think they probably could have been because of conditioning, but at the same time, I just don't think we ran the ball enough.
No, fuck no.
I don't think we ran the ball enough. And what was the stats? We had was it over 5 yards of carry when we were in the shotgun running the ball. It's like, man, if we could have on first or second down, if we could have ran the ball, I mean, we would have had situations to where, hey, easy, 3rd down and 5, where we could have easily dumped it off to the tight end, or even on the receiver on the outside edge. I still think that running the ball, I think we could have had, a better success of getting a 3rd down and a first down on 3rd downs anyway.
Absolutely. No,
I absolutely agree with that, guys. I mean, look at these stats. So we ran actually one more play total than Northwestern did. It was 78-77. Actually, is that 79? Hold on, give me a sec. No, it looks like we ran the exact same amount of plays. But as far as the breakdown goes, Northwestern passed the ball 18 times with Peyton Ramsey, ran the ball 60 times. Isaiah Bauer carried 25 times for 85 yards. Peyton Ramsey for 12, obviously quarterback runs, and then Jesse Brown, they had some others. For us, we had 79. Sorry, I was right. Adding here today is struggling, but so Spencer Petras passed the ball 50 times. There was one other pass recorded for the game, And we only ran the ball as a team 23 times. So Isaiah Bowser for the other carried the ball more times than the entire Hawkeyes team ran the ball. And you can see it in the time of possession because, Northwestern's time of possession, 33 minutes, 33 seconds. We were 26 minutes, 27 seconds.
Yeah, and that's another great point there, Rob. I mean, looking at that, so you look at versus Purdue, we lost the time of possession battle. Versus Northwestern, we lose the time of possession battle. And neither week, we didn't lose the turnover battle. Granted, we had some, horrible turnovers and bad situations. We tied both times in that turnover battle, but that time of possession is huge, especially for, a pro-style offense like the Iowa Hawkeyes that wants to run the ball, that wants to chew the clock, that wants to score on long drives. And that's just going to kill you. You got to hold on to the ball. You can't be having those 3 and outs. And, and that's going to happen with a new quarterback. I get that, but God damn it, it's starting to get frustrating.
And one thing too, there was a on the field analyst that came up and said that they talked to Coach Fitzgerald at halftime, and he said, "Hey, we're going to control the time of possession, and we're going to fucking win this game." And when you heard her voice at halftime, it's like, oh boy, I think the Hawks may be in for it, Yeah. And at the same time, it's like, we'll be all right. But man, I tell you what, the Northwestern Wildcats really controlled the game, and next thing you know, they're up by 1 point, and they're going to control the rest of the game.
Yeah, and that's the thing. They came into Iowa City and beat Iowa at their own game.
Yeah.
And you hit on it before. Who do you point at after something like that happens? It's solely coaching. And I love how Tyler Goodson and the guys, came through in their interviews this week, and they were like, yeah, it's us on players, it's execution, blah blah blah. Yeah, but you got to be put in a position to succeed.
I agree.
Because it almost looked like those guys are set up for failure out there. A true or a first-time starting quarterback in the Big Ten, or second game starting quarterback in the Big Ten, throwing the ball 50 times, asinine.
Yeah,
horrible.
And one thing, and Rob, we can get to it, later in the segment, but it was his first or second game in the Big Ten. Why make him throw, 50 times? I don't get it. Make him acclimate into the Big Ten, run the ball like we're used to, and get this guy comfortable so that we have a Big Ten quarterback like Nate Stanley who can throw the deep ball and, get us more comfortable in these Big Ten games.
And that's the best way to get a young quarterback going. I know it doesn't sound like much, but handing the ball off, you see Tyler Goodson get 6-7 yards, bam, you feel a little bit more comfortable. You hit a dump off pass, all of a sudden you get a first down and you're rolling. So
I 100% agree, guys. And I think I hate to use play calling as a scapegoat, but I literally think that we have to do that. And there are multiple situations where it was especially in the second half, where the game's on the line, after they scored and went up by 1, even up until that point, I was like, okay, they're starting to gain a little bit more on their runs. Okay, yeah, they're really sticking to the run game, and they're marching down the field. And we were able to stop them a few times, but then they got into the end zone, and then they went up by 1. The entire fourth quarter, there were so many attempts or drives, possessions that we had to go down there and get a field goal or get a score or something. And it came down to a 3rd and long situation that was set up by a second down or, incomplete pass. And it's if we would have ran the ball on 2nd down and we would have ran the ball on 3rd down, it wouldn't have been a 3rd and 7 or because if they drop the ball or something happens and, Spencer can't get the ball out to him, or there was a few times where he was sacked, where I thought he should have thrown the ball out of bounds. He's young. I get that. So I can't really hold that against him, but just run the ball. He doesn't have to have all that pressure.
Right. And I remember seeing that shirt tailgating once, and I never really understood it. And it's from early in the Ferentz tenure, where it's literally what it says: run the damn ball. What's so? I don't see what's difficult about it. And don't sit there and tell me it wasn't working, because it was. It's just predictable as fuck when you come out there and you do, a first down run, pass 2nd down, 3rd down pass, bam, we're punting. That happened at least 3 times in the second half. It's come on. God, that pisses me off.
we should come up with like some hats or like some merch or something with just like black and yellow, and it just says "Run the damn ball" with like a
Yes.
Hawkeyes and Tallboys logo or
Exactly.
something.
Right?
That would be. I mean,
like it.
that'd be awesome.
Might be a little copyright infringement depending on who made it originally, but I don't care. We haven't been sued yet. Sue us. Just kidding.
Yeah.
Sue us, please. Yeah, we don't have a lot of money. We do this for fun. We don't have sponsors.
Okay, let's talk about. So we lost this game, guys. It's tough. It's really hard to really look at this last game and then see how the team that we're about to play this Saturday, Michigan State, where they came out with a win. They beat Michigan. So it's going to be, we're going to have our hands full on Saturday. So, but before we get into that segment, I want to say, are there any closing thoughts that we can really take away from this game against Northwestern, guys?
Yeah, I'll take the bid on this. I really think our punting game was really good. Our special teams in general. You know, I thought Keith Duncan did a great job of kicking field goals. I think he deserved the Groza last year. I think he deserves it this year. But I still think our punting game has gotten a lot better, especially with Tory Taylor. Oh. Sorry about that. Tory Taylor, he's done a terrific job. I think this last game, he averaged 49 yards a kick. And I mean, he's looked great. And props to our special teams. I think our special teams have done
And
a terrific job.
shout out Pro Kick Australia for our second punter in a row. Thank you to the folks down under.
You bet.
He had a long of 58. He had a 58-yard punt this last Saturday.
Yep.
Yeah,
for
he's
sure.
a beast. When's the last time Iowa had like a solid punter? Like, I think we were kind of somewhat spoiled with Sleep Dalton, but there was a few years there. Like, I remember the Dylan Kidd years, oh God, who was that other guy? You know, you hate to call out these kids by name, but oh God, I can't think of his name. It's probably for the best Rastetter, not.
He's still on the roster too.
Colton Rastetter is?
He's senior.
No, you're thinking of Gersand.
No.
Colton Rastetter graduated last year,
Are
buddy.
you sure?
Positive.
All right.
I'm not sure.
We'll look this up, but Rob, you got us here.
No, it's interesting. It's just like with our punter, like, I mean, just think about, you know, this last game, for instance, we lost by 1. It was a tough game. It was close. It came down to, you know, one drive where we go down and get scores, we win the game. Like, if you look at, like, if we didn't have a punter who could put them down on, you know, in their own red zone, you know what I mean? Like, how could they compete? Like, at least we're making the other team to have to drive down the entire length of the field to beat us. If we didn't have a punter like Tory Taylor that we do now, I mean, who knows what the score would have been on this game.
Yeah, and that brings up another point too that I wanted to rant about there, Rob. Like, you had Spencer Petras throwing, you know, with his back towards the Hawkeyes end zone, you know, and not necessarily crunch time, but, you know, damn near crunch time. And he throws a pick and sets Northwestern up inside the red zone, you know, basically just begging them to score, you know, and that's when they took the lead. So it's just so incredibly frustrating, you know, the thought process behind these play calls and, you know, acting like you have a veteran presence out there when you don't. You know, you have a young guy, you gotta work to get him acclimated and whatnot. You can't just throw him in there and expect him to be Nate Stanley right away. Nate Stanley had 3 years of experience under his belt. Annoyed again.
Well, what else? Final thoughts, guys?
I mean, overall final thoughts is just the Hawks got to play better, you know, in 2 phases of the game. I'm with you, Beau. I think special teams look good, so I don't have too much to complain about there. As far as the defensive side of the ball goes, first of all, because obviously we allowed too many points to win the game. That's just bottom line. That is what it is. So rush defense has to improve.
Yep.
It's disgusting.
Yep.
You know, and that's on our linebackers. And I thought Seth Benson played a hell of a game. You know, he was Iowa's leading tackler. I want to say he had 10 solo
Yep.
Really
13
proud of
total.
the effort there. And I think he's going to be the guy, going forward there. But, we got to have somebody step up on that D-line other than Davion Nixon and Chauncey Golston because, they're just going to run the other way. So we got to get something figured out there. We got to see some linebackers step up. We got to see a guy like Justin Jacobs really stepped up. I don't think he played too bad, but again, made some rookie mistakes, caught out of position and whatnot. So overall, the defense has just got to be better. Offensively, same thing. We talk about running the damn ball. Well, frankly, running the damn ball doesn't work unless your offensive line is, a cohesive unit, and they're not yet. And I know Kirk Ferentz talks about it all the time, how they play their best football in November, blah, 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 2-3 months into the season. Well, we don't have that luxury this year. They have got to get it figured out. Tim Polasek has got to get it figured out with these guys so we can run the ball on a consistent basis. Otherwise this is quickly going to turn into an exhibition season, and you might as well throw the third stringers out.
Yep. 100% agree, guys.
There's Dylan's rant.
I will tell you one bright spot on the defense that I did take notice to. Kayvon Merriweather laid a hit on, I think it was
Your boy, that's your guy, dude.
Your boy,
That's your guy.
And that was a big play, Rob.
Yeah, I mean, someone has to do something. Like, we got to come out swinging some way. I mean, they ran a lot of misdirection, which seemed to have us confused. They seemed to get out on the edge a little more than I would have liked. But other than that, I mean, I'd like to cave on, lay the wood a little bit more.
I loved it too. And you know what? I'm going to say this, and this is going to be a very unpopular opinion to some out there, and I do not care. I want to see a Bob Sanders type player. And yes, I understand damn near half of the hits that Bob Sanders made in his day would get you ejected from the game. I don't care. I don't care. We have depth in the defensive back room. So I want to see a guy like Kayvon Merriweather, come up first, second play of the game. If it ends up being targeting, so be it. But knock that motherfucker out. Set the tone, and let's kick some ass. Let's play Iowa Hawkeye defensive football, the 6 seconds of hell. I need my boys back. I need something to look forward to on Saturday. Let's go.
I love it. Let's go.
Well, we
Take
can
the suspension.
but just before we thought it was, a dark day on Halloween as the Hawkeyes lose to Northwestern, a mere 4 hours after.
I hate Pat Fitzgerald.
What?
I hate Pat Fitzgerald. I hate that guy with the passion. The guy fucking sucks. I hate him with all my heart.
A mere 4 hours after the end of the game, Amir Smith-Marset picked up for OWI in Iowa City. So he is suspended for this Saturday's game.
Yeah, can we talk about what a moron this guy is for a second? Okay, cool. I get he's a college kid. College kids are going to make mistakes, blah, blah, blah. Okay, let's look at all the different things we can criticize him for, though. He gets thrown the ball how many times this game? Wasn't it seven times?
Yeah, 7 or 7.
So he's getting the ball. I understand why he was frustrated after the Purdue game. I do. I wouldn't blame him for going and have a few beers after not getting the ball thrown my way. But come on. He got what he wants. Obviously, the guys didn't get a win, so they were out partying. They're college kids. I get that. But that's not even the stupidest part about it. This moron was going 74 miles per hour in a 30-mile-per-hour zone on Riverside Drive in Iowa City. So for those of you that are alumni or that have ever even partied in Iowa City or lived there, that's probably the second most busy street, on a downtown Saturday night in Iowa City, with the exception of Gilbert and Burlington, maybe. So how stupid this guy can be, again, I get he was frustrated, obviously had too many, and we were all young and dumb. I won't lie. I've done similar, but I damn sure wasn't going 75 miles an hour. I mean, one, he's fucking lucky he didn't kill somebody. Two, he lets his team down. And then three, we look at all this COVID bullshit going on right now. And if you test positive for COVID, you're out for 3 weeks. Like, I doubt he was sitting in his apartment drinking alone and decided to go to Hardee's quick. I guarantee he wasn't doing that. So he was at a party. Like,
He wanted to get to Hardee's real quick.
Yeah,
going
like,
74.
oh my God. Again, I know some of you are going to listen to this and be like, Dylan, you are such a hypocrite. You have done all of those things in your life. Shut up. Yeah, I know, but it's like my mother used to say, do as I say, not as I do. Life lesson for you listeners.
You know, you think about it too. Like, yeah, okay, he did what he did. He owned up to his mistakes.
He did.
Confessed to his mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
You know what? Like, let the guy be a guy. You know, he didn't cause any trouble. He got lucky. He sped. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Let him ride out.
Sped, you say.
Let him ride out
74 miles per hour in a 30 mile per hour zone.
Let him ride out his suspension. Come back next week.
Oh, I
We're
get that.
fine.
Yeah, I think a 1-game suspension is fine for the record.
Yes.
I just want to point out the lack of decision making in this game.
Well,
I think
the only
he's
thing that
on the
I'm
way.
questioning is his leadership. You know, he should be the senior leader on this team. Leadership on this is, I mean, that's not acceptable.
No.
But I'm saying he's going to come back next week. We'll see what happens.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, it's like, as a leader, that's tough to see.
You know, and what should a leader? Some of you guys might be wondering, okay, these kids are in college. What should a leader do there? You know, I won't name the person that told me this story, and I may have told it on here before. But 2012, the Hawkeyes went 4-8. They had a rough season. So this team was in football camp, actually. So for those of you that don't know, like the 2 weeks before the season, the Hawkeyes go into camp. Essentially, they stay in a hotel. They're not allowed to leave. You know, no going downtown, that kind of thing. It's all football for 2 weeks before the season starts and before school and all that fun stuff gets going. So anyways, what this fella told me my freshman year at Iowa is they said that James Ferentz, who was a senior on that squad, you know, knew the guys wanted to party, knew they were all bummed, blah, blah, blah. And they had, you know, an off morning or whatever. So Mr. James Ferentz, son of Coach Kirk Ferentz, who was also a captain of that squad, rolls in with 3 or 4 dirty 30s of Busch Light and says, boys, I know you want to go out, but this will have to do. And they partied. They did some team bonding, and they did some good old-fashioned drinking. Now you're telling me, Amir, after, you know, obviously a disappointing start, you know, if I was a coach, I would almost want to see that. Like, you know, like him round up the boys and say, listen, you know, we're all going back to my place. We're going to crank some tunes. We're going to, you know, let off a little bit of steam, and we're all going to hang out together. No trollops are coming because we can't get COVID. So just a bunch of testosterone, and we'll punch each other and wrestle and do dude stuff.
But he's the only one that got tested, and, you know, he's the only one that broke rules,
Right.
You know?
Mm-hmm.
So what happens?
Well, maybe he saw who we were about to play and said, man, I can't be in that game. So he went over double the speed limit after the game. Anyways, so that kind of brings us to
Rob sent himself to the slammer. Poor guy.
oh gosh. That brings us to our mailbag. And one of our fellow listeners, and Dill, I don't know if you can name exactly who it was, but they wanted us to compile a list of former Hawkeye players who have come down with the OWI bug.
Oh, I got this one. So this is not hilarious because obviously these young men made mistakes and blah, blah, blah. But it reminds me of a gentleman named Jim Rome. For those of you that may or may not remember, it was Rome is Burning. Was that his show on ESPN?
Yeah. Yep.
So back in, 2000 whatever, when I was getting in a bunch of trouble, Jim Rome got all pissed off that Kirk Ferentz denied coming on his show. So he was like, yep. And we were supposed to end off the show with Kirk Ferentz, head coach of the DU Iowa Hawkeyes. And no wonder why Kirk didn't go on the show, right? So, we can laugh about it now because, there's definitely a little bit of a history there with, University of Iowa students and getting OWIs. And so taking a little bit of a blast of the past here, 4 days ago, we had Amir Smith-Marset going 74 and a 30. So in a car.
Yeah,
So, yeah, so he did that. We had Tristan Wirfs picking up some couple buddies, 3 deep on a moped downtown Iowa City.
Yep.
Remember that one pretty good. We had Kyle Calloway. Those of you that don't remember him, he was on the 09 Orange Bowl team, actually passed away a few years back. So may he rest in peace. Brady Reef, another one. And I can't remember. I know Brady Reef had got a public intoxication as well. So, yeah, him and Riley Reef both got public intoxications at least. But then you had Marcus Collins as well, linebacker from a few years back, Roderick Benz. And that's just going back to 2010. I'm sure, Caden gave us this question. Caden from Cedar Rapids, Iowa. Cade, we could definitely keep going. And I guarantee you it goes back a lot longer than, most of us have been alive. So I think it's just the party school ranking thing. Iowa's been in the top 10 for party schools for 1,000 years now, and I don't see that ever changing.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like
hence why a group of guys drink a bunch and
I feel like we need like Hall of Fame music, you know what I mean? Just like to talk about the former OWIs.
Oh my God. It's kind of funny.
Amir Smith.
And now we have Tristan Wirfs 3 deep on said moped. Micah Hyde got an OWI too. I forgot about him. Micah Hyde. So that was another one. That was during my college years. Poor guy just left a bar. What are you gonna do? But anyways, good question, Caden. That one cracked me up. And then it looks like we got another one here from Jake. Jake, originally from Mount Vernon, Iowa. Where does he reside now, Beau?
Cedar Rapids, Iowa.
Cedar Rapids area. But
Old Cedar Rapids.
yeah, but he wants to know, guys, other than Chauncey Golston and Davion Nixon, who's going to step up on the O-line? Either one of you guys take this because I have no idea.
Yeah, I'll start out. I think that we really want Jonathan Wagner. I think he's the
John
guy.
Wagner.
I think we really want John, and he's so big, man. Like you look at it, it's like, why aren't you creating pressure? Like he is the guy. You know what I mean? Like he is the guy in my mind too. I mean, why not? But we'll see what happens. But I think he's the guy that we really need to see step up, especially with these other two to get pressure.
Absolutely. Yeah, for me, it's Zach Van Valkenburg. He's coming off that other defensive end. Yep. And I think about it like he's in the position that Chauncey Golston was in last year, being opposite of AJ Epinesa. So Chauncey's going to get the majority of the attention. He's going to get the slide blocks. He's going to get all of that. My offensive line gurus out there know what I'm talking about. They're going to be shifting that protection right to deal with Chauncey. That's Van Valkenburg's time to shine where he can come in there and make some noise. And I definitely saw, on the tape a few different times where he tried to do that. The kicker there is you forget your number one responsibility primarily in a Kirk Ferentz defense where your number one priority as a defensive end is contain. So you're not going to get the stats that like AJ Epinesa got, free rushing. That's why we didn't see Chauncey Golston have like a breakout year statistics wise last year. Same thing with Anthony and Matt Nelson back in the day. So, you saw him break contain a few times, and that's when, that rushing game looked good. So, I think keep your contain, but you're going to have those chances to get after the passer. And especially this week with Rocky Lombardi, who I wouldn't necessarily call him a mobile quarterback, but, he has some wiggle. He can escape the pocket and whatnot.
So you're saying him over Joe Evans?
Absolutely. Yep. Because Van Valkenburg's going to be that 3-down guy. Obviously, Joe Evans is going to step in there in some pass rush situations as well. But to be honest, I haven't been impressed with him just yet either. I feel like he hasn't gotten fully up to speed. And frankly, that's just a little bit disappointing, seeing him in that pass rush specialist role last year where, he really thrived. So
I'm going to have to agree with Dylan here. I really like Zach Van Valkenburg. And you know what? It's interesting because you see his last name and it's so many letters on the back of his jersey. It's like Van Valken, and I was like, I almost want to say Vandenberg, you know what I mean, when you see it on the back of the jersey. But no, I mean, he had 7 tackles last game. I thought he played good. He actually recovered a fumble. So hold on. For some reason we got a webpage that wants to play some videos. But anyways, no, yeah, Zach Van Valkenburg had 2 solo tackles. He had a half tackle for a loss. I feel like he's going to be the guy that is going to be next up after, this year when we have Chauncey Golston move on. So it's going to be – he's 6'4", 270 out of Michigan, Zeeland, Michigan, number 97.
He's the one, if you guys remember, he started his career off at D2 Hillsdale College and transferred here to the Iowa, graduated early out there with, was it 2 or 3 years of eligibility?
3 years.
3 years? Okay.
Yep.
Gotcha. So, yeah, I'd be interested to see if he can make a difference. Somebody's going to have to step up. You know what's funny, listeners? So us, obviously, we're all good friends. We have a little group chat going. But one of those questions that Dylan just asked us, he kind of posed to us in text form today, and I responded like, maybe not anyone will step up, and I put a cry face emoji because it's like literally. It seemed like the Northwestern Wildcats, this is going to be a weird sentence, and I don't know if anyone's really said this sentence before in the history of mankind, but Northwestern Wildcats really ran all over us last Saturday. And it's odd, but, I feel like just like we said last week, that they're sort of, modeling their program after Wisconsin. So.
Yeah, it's just depressing to hear that Northwestern runs all over you. I mean, that's just
a brand new set.
That's all it is. It's depressing. So, but you got to flush it. Come back next week. There's another game to play, and that brings us to our next question. Speaking of which, Braden out of Davenport, Iowa, wants to know, fellas, any chance Deuce Hogan gets some playing time soon? Recruiting guru, I'll take this one if you guys want to touch on it. No, there's zero chance you're going to see Deuce Hogan at any time this year, I'm assuming. With the exception of maybe a handoff snap at the end of the game somewhere if we're kicking ass. Unfortunately, with COVID being funky, for one, Deuce was another one. He didn't roll early, so he didn't get the time in with the guys and whatnot. So just flat out no. He doesn't have the experience. He's got to learn the entire offense. He's got a ton to learn. So unfortunately, no, you're not going to see him this year. But if we continue seeing the poor play out of Spencer Petras, which for the record, I do not think we will. I still think he's the guy, and we can get into that later as well. But you may end up seeing Alex Padilla if you continue to see these Petras struggles. And, and I still feel like everybody's overlooking this kid. This kid comes out of Colorado Football Player of the Year in high school. Hell of a quarterback that comes out of more of a spread system, but nonetheless can sling it around and can do everything that's needed of him. And from all accounts from the coaches, has picked up everything pretty quickly as well. So do not sleep on Alex Padilla. The kid, he's going to be a player, whether it's here or whether he ends up transferring out because Deuce does take over.
Yeah, I agree. I couldn't have said it better. And I don't think we're going to see Deuce this year, at least not this year. But I think if anything, we could see Alex Padilla. But I honestly still think that Spencer Petras is going to be our guy, and I think he's going to show up this week and the rest of the year.
He is, and that's the thing. And I know fans are so frustrated, by the missed throws, by the overthrows, by the underthrows. I get it. We went through these growing pains before, and a comparison that I keep hearing is Jake Christensen, and that's just not fair. I think, Jake showed over a season and a half that, he couldn't get it down. I can't say the same just yet with Spencer Petras. I think it's too soon to pull the plug on him. Everybody's got full confidence in him. The team loves him. Like everybody on that team loves him. And, and you hear it all throughout the interviews and everything. Obviously they're not going to dog on anyone, but they just keep telling them, they're like, dude, you're going to get it. It's fine. It's not a big deal. It's your first year. They understand mistakes are going to be made. He's still the guy, 100%.
Yep. And I agree with you there. I mean, if we do, first off, as far as quarterback comparisons go, during the broadcast of the game, they compared Spencer Petras to Chad Henne and also Navarre, Jake Navarre from Michigan, kind of a bigger guy, sling the ball a little bit. Anyways, interesting comparisons as far as that goes. Just bigger guys can throw the ball pretty well. They're fairly mobile. That was interesting to me, I thought. But if we do, let's say worst case scenario, Spencer Petras continues has another game like he had this last week. And I know we really can't put all of those interceptions completely on his shoulders, but let's say he does have another game where, he throws 2-3 interceptions, we lose the game, it doesn't look good, they're trying to have him throw a ton, which I will get into this later, but I hope that they don't have him do that. But regardless, if we were going to see another quarterback step up, who's it going to be? Do you think it'd be, because the other one is Colin Kapsiak?
Yeah, no, it'd be Alex. He's the backup. All the coaches have showed a lot of faith in him, and if that's anything I've learned throughout the Kirk Ferentz tenure is before a quarterback steps on that field, there's got to be a considerable amount of trust between him and the coaches. So he's the next guy, and unfortunately, he'd be the only guy going in there. As far as Connor Kapsack, he's a great story. I want to say he's the one that comes out
of Connecticut.
Oh, is he out of Connecticut? Okay.
Yep.
Who's that quarterback that came out of Linmar a few years back? He graduated. That's what I was thinking of. My fault there. But no, another guy they're very, very high on. Just unfortunately, he's a program guy. He's a scout team guy. Yep. Connor Kapsack's not going to see the field.
Well, any other questions that we have from the mailbag, guys?
Let me see here. There's some disappointing
Any last questions come in on the hotline?
Oh, let's see here. This is the last one I see here. Oh, here we go. This one comes from John Morgan. So John Morgan, resident Nebraska fan, actually. Still hoping to get on the podcast. A fellow I officiate with, great guy. But he wants to know, guys, Hawks, minus 6.5 favorites at the moment. But wise guys are all over MSU on that line. Trap game number 3. What do you think? Yeah. If I'm a bettor, unfortunately, you have to take Michigan State plus 6.5. Get it as early as possible. I know a few people that got it at plus 9. Get it. The way I see it as an Iowa fan, and I never bet on the Hawks, and I'm probably going to on Saturday because the way I see it, it's free money. Iowa sucks. I'm going to make 10, 15, 20 bucks. Iowa wins. I bought a win. Let's go. Call me that one agent dude from the U back in the day. What's his nuts? That guy that went to prison. You guys know what I'm talking about? Listeners, if you know who it is, comment on this post and let us know.
No, I mean that might be a good way to go. I've bet on the Hawks the last 2 games. I bet $20 on the Hawks on this his first game. And I really thought that they were just going to come through with a pretty easy win. And, unfortunately that didn't work out. And then I saw the spread this last game and bet on the spread because I figured, well, we're probably going to come out with a win on this one, and we didn't. And so it's kind of hard to continue what I'm doing. So, I probably will not be betting on this game. But it's going to be interesting. And if you want, we can kind of get into, well, before we do, Beau, what do you think? Are you?
Yeah, I don't want to, I think we all bet on Iowa the last 2 weeks, and it's tough to want to bet on Iowa after they go 0-2. And to be honest, the spread is at 46.5. I don't know if I want to go over on that.
Well, and that's the thing. Historically, Iowa against the spread is horrendous. The bettors out there know what I'm talking about. If you're a spread bettor, you never want to touch the Hawkeyes because you just don't know. Like, the Hawks rarely cover the spread when they're playing at home for whatever reason. So I wouldn't expect this week to be any different. I'm not saying the Hawks aren't going to win necessarily, but for them to win by a touchdown, I don't see it.
Well, on that too, I think Kirk Ferentz even touched on it too. It's a weird year with no fans in the stands too. I think a big thing, and we talked about it on week 1, but who's the team who's gonna not benefit from having fans in the stands? Honestly, I think Iowa is the one that is not benefiting at all. I think that we've really we've really put ourselves back in comparison to other teams. Rob, I think you said Penn State, and I think I agreed with you on that too. But Iowa, you got a team that's coming in, who's going to try and knock off the Hawks, who has no home game at all or no, fans in the stands. It's tough to build any momentum at all when you're trying to beat a team at home. What seems it's going to be on the road, like a road game. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Yeah, I said that would affect Penn State, playing at their house, because it's so loud and they all have towels.
But it has. They're 0-2, Rob. So you weren't wrong. But go on.
So we're in that same boat, and I just did not think that it would affect us the same way that it really has. And I don't know if that's how much of a factor that really is, but something is not. I mean, we do not look like ourselves for sure.
No.
All right, so let's get into this weekend's game against the Michigan State Spartans. We only play this team once every 4 years or so. The last time we played them, we did come out with a win. That's when they had that really great defensive team, or what was heralded as a really great defensive team. We did win that one. Dill, do you remember if that was 2016?
It was.
I was going to say,
I thought we lost 20. Yeah, we lost after that 2015 campaign. Yep.
So
we should have won too. We should have won that game.
Yeah.
Oh, we did lose.
Yeah.
But regardless, so we are looking at a Michigan State team, and Beau, I don't know if you got it up, if you want to kind of take us into what this Saturday looks like.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we're talking about a 1-1 Michigan State team that just came off a really big win against Michigan. Got an 0-2 Iowa team that's really trying to figure out who the hell they are. We don't know who they are.
Right. And it's not like Iowa's been smoked the last two games either.
Right.
They lost close both times, both heartbreaking games, by a combined 5 points.
Yep.
So we're not saying this team is a bad team necessarily. This team just doesn't know how to finish yet.
Right. And I honestly think they're this close. I mean, they are so close to finishing it off, but they got to figure it out offensively. And to be honest with you, Michigan State knows how to win. They just beat Michigan in a big rival game. Iowa's 0-2. I mean, to be honest with you, Rocky Lombardi is Michigan State's quarterback. He's an Iowa guy. Should we say he's a great quarterback?
West Des Moines Valley?
No, I wouldn't say. And he was a Washington Warrior before he transferred to Valley. Yep.
I played against his old man.
Yep. And it's going to be an interesting game. For all you listeners out there, ESPN has this as a 75% Iowa win over Michigan State. The only thing I have to say personally, Michigan State's beaten Michigan. Iowa hasn't won a game yet.
And where I think that's coming from is I think everybody kind of figures that Michigan State blew their wad beating Michigan, but they did it at the big house.
Yeah.
Now, granted, they didn't have the fans there, but they still went on the road and took that. I guess I don't know how long the trip from East Lansing to Ann Arbor is, but
2.5 hours.
yeah, it's still a trip, obviously. Yeah. So they went on the road and still did that, and they came out to play. This is a dangerous team. Everybody wants to bring up the fact that they lost to Rutgers the week before. They had 7 turnovers. That's a team in a similar boat as Iowa, finding their identity. Well, they didn't turn the ball over a single time versus the Wolverines and ended up with a W. So not a team to be taken lightly whatsoever.
Exactly. And again, I mean, it's a team that's 1-1. They've won a game. Iowa is winless. So, we look at that. I mean, Rob, do you want to break us down with the stats here on Michigan State?
Yep. So Michigan State, over the past 2 games, they're 1-1. Sorry, I almost said 2-0. They're 1-1. They beat Michigan, which is a huge win for them, rivalry game win for them. They're averaging 27 points per game. They allow 31 points per game, with about 400 yards or so of total offense. They pass the ball a lot more than they run. It looks like they're averaging about 320 yards passing a game, or only 88 rushing. So almost the opposite of the team that we just faced. And as far as on the defensive end, it looks like they're allowing a lot. So pass yards, 235, rush yards, 129. So if there is a team that we would be able to get the run started early on, I think it would be the Michigan State Spartans. I do want to touch base on Rocky Lombardi out of Clive, Iowa. Draco Malfoy looking ass. This guy looks. Let me share my screen real quick. Let's see. Look at this guy. Let me zoom in. Can you see? Look at this guy.
Oh, yeah.
He's got the blonde hair. He's got this comb over like Draco Malfoy. He looks like straight Slytherin, dude. Regardless, I want to.
Harry Potter.
I think he actually had a visit to Iowa, if not one, if not two. But his little brother, I think his little brother tried to go to Iowa too and decided to follow his brother to Michigan State too. But
So big thing there was Iowa offered Rocky as a potential linebacker.
Yep.
So, and Rocky Lombardi saw himself playing quarterback, so he ended up going with Michigan State that offered him to be a quarterback.
Yep.
So,
yep.
It's safe to say he's looking forward. He's had this game circled on his calendar. His words, not mine.
On that too, I mean, like you said, Rob, I think we really could exploit the run game. I mean, I think their pass and run defense have not been very good, but this could be a really good game for us to really break out that offensive run game and really put some points on the board and really milk some clock so we can win that time of possession.
Absolutely. And I love that you bring that up because one of the notes I wanted to get into this week that we used to do was just a little bit of Dylan's keys to victory. And so we can kind of touch on that since we're previewing Michigan State here.
Let's do it.
For Iowa to win this game, it's just kind of like you said there, Beau. The biggest thing, in my opinion, is that time of possession. Iowa has to control the clock. Iowa has to control the line of scrimmage, because this Michigan State team, you saw it versus Rutgers even. You saw it especially versus Michigan last week. They get those big plays, what Phil Parker calls the chunk plays.
Yep.
And if we don't limit those, if we let them score at will, this game is going to get ugly, and it's going to get ugly quick and not in a good way. So time of possession, we have to win that this week. We haven't won it the past 2 weeks. And I'd say that's the biggest indicator of whether or not we win the game is winning that time of possession battle.
Well, that and then turnover battle.
Absolutely.
I mean, as long as we don't turn the ball over, I think we're going to be just fine. I mean, you look at Michigan State, they turned over the ball 7 times their first week, and they come back and they rarely turned the ball over last week against Michigan.
Yeah, they didn't at all.
Zero. So, I mean, I think that's big time against us. And then, if Iowa can limit the turnovers on offensive side of the ball, they're going to be all right.
Absolutely. And then same thing, that defense has got to come out firing just like they did versus Northwestern.
For sure.
And I don't want to say the defense necessarily got conservative because I don't know that for sure. I can't say that. But, I do think when Iowa gets up, I don't want to say they stop blitzing and that kind of thing, but they go into a little bit more of a prevent mode where you see those 2 safeties fall back. And we've talked about it for years, and it's just the way it is. Just the way Iowa runs their defensive program. That can't happen. We have to have this defense, firing on all cylinders all game long. Because if you let Rocky Lombardi sit back there with his weapons he's got, specifically, looking at running backs, Jordan Simmons, who catches a lot out of the backfield. Same thing with Connor Hayward. Big time playmaker. You saw Ricky White catch 3 touchdown passes last week versus Michigan. Jalen Nailor as well. And these guys have playmakers. We are going to have to create pressure, get after these guys. So we can't go soft and play not to lose. And that's what I thought we did versus Northwestern.
Which I think you're right, and to some extent, but I think the offense has to really take that into their granted and really go out and fucking put it to them.
Absolutely.
I think the defense actually played, and this is my opinion. I think the defense played really well against Northwestern. I think they got really good pressure. There's a couple plays, here and there, but to be honest, I think it was the offense that kept them out on the field.
Absolutely.
And I really think if the offense can really limit that and then win the time of possession, I really think we can run the clock out and really win this game.
Absolutely. Yeah, we'd have a great chance.
What's interesting about that, guys, is that time of possession, battle that we were talking earlier. So Michigan State in the past 2 weeks, they lost to Rutgers, which that's an interesting one. And, I don't think that we play Rutgers this year, but they seem to be looking like world beaters out there right now.
Maybe in championship, we're both 0-9.
But they lost the time of possession there. They lost the game. They actually lost the time of possession as well against Michigan, and they won that game. I was looking at the scoring comparison as well with Michigan State. Obviously, it's going to be a team that passed the ball a lot, but they seem to be consistently scoring touchdowns. In both games, they've had a touchdown in every quarter except the third quarter, where they've only had 2 field goals, or it was 6 points, so it could have been like a missed extra point. But regardless, I mean, you look at the way that Iowa has been sort of on and off, being able to go down the field and score. I know that a lot of that is predicated on turnovers, but we're going to have to get a lot more consistent on the offensive side of the ball.
Oh, absolutely, Rob. I couldn't agree more. And, a big thing that you touched on there with that time of possession battle is that's the thing with this Michigan State offense is they're big play hitters. Most of those scores they had versus Michigan last week, and then same thing versus Rutgers, those are plays of 20 or more yards. So, we have got to limit those chunk plays, and that's going to be on, our D-backs containing Ricky White, and then that's going to be on our linebackers containing their run game as well.
I really like that comparison. And who last year did Iowa play that loved the big-time game plans? Minnesota.
Minnesota, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And who really stepped up last year was Riley Moss. Came up against Minnesota, their big time playmakers. He made big plays against their big time chunk plays.
Right.
Really limited them too. So I really like Riley Moss here in this game this year. And then I really like the D line trying to create some pressure, because based off of what we saw last week against Michigan, I really think this D line can really get a lot of pressure against Rocky Lombardi. Think we can really mess him up, especially in Kinnick Stadium, and force him to make some bad decisions. And for Iowa to get quite a few turnovers this week.
I like it. 6 seconds of hell, baby. Let's go.
We need it. Yeah, exactly, guys.
And so go ahead.
Oh, sorry. So, regarding that, guys, as far as the keys to the game, we talked about time possession. We talked about limiting turnovers. We talked about getting the run game going. But we need to kind of cover, coming out of this loss to Northwestern. So our second in a row, we're going to face a team that passes the ball almost the way that Purdue did, and they scorched us right off the bat, first game of the year. So I'm sure that, having these experiences as a defense is going to kind of really help set us up to play against this team, and not to go 0-3, because I don't want to look up the last time Iowa went 0-3.
I don't want to know.
But that brings us to,
it probably wasn't a great year.
let's talk about, coming out of this situation, being 0-2, looking at Michigan State, coming off a huge win against their rival. Let's go into a little good vibes, bad vibes.
Yeah, I'll start this one. Good vibes. I touched on it last week. My bad vibes, the big one, was the penalties and the discipline of the squad. That definitely turned around. I don't think the Hawks had more than 4 or 5 penalties this game. And just frankly, that was just awesome to see. Big turnaround, big improvement there. Love to see it. Bad vibe, and I touched on it earlier, is that rush defense. Once again, absolutely horrendous. Couldn't have pissed me off more. Frankly, where did I have it? I had the stat right in front of me here. Where the good vibe, bad vibes. Oh, so right now, our rushing defense is giving up an average of 169 yards per game. That is unfucking acceptable. That's all there is to it. And I know Phil Parker's saying the same thing, so I don't feel bad about dropping the F-bomb in there. We have got to make stops. If you want to win one fucking game here in the Big Ten, if you're allowing 169 yards per game on the ground, we're not going to win a game. Flat out. Figure it out.
Yep.
So for me, as far as good vibes, bad vibes go, I mean, I got bad vibes about the way that, we handled the pass, against Purdue. David Bell was all over the place. David Bell was able to sorry. There's someone who keeps popping up. But David Bell caught the ball and scored 3 touchdowns against us. It was completely unbelievable. And for me, I just couldn't believe the way that we were able to just let them do what they wanted to do. That doesn't seem like the Iowa defense. We're a bend, not break, as Dill likes to say. And so, watching somebody just have their way and go down and convert third downs the way that they're able to do is something that kind of spooks me. Now, that's the first game of the season, but that's the only time we've really been tested as far as our pass defense goes. And so looking at, this guy, Iowa guy coming in, played really well against Michigan. They like to throw the ball. I'm a little bit have some bad vibes about whether or not we're going to be able to, contain their receivers and get pressure on Lombardi. Beau, what do you think as far as good vibes, bad vibes?
Yeah, so I'll start with the bad vibes. Honestly, I think the D line is again my bad vibes. I really, I think that Chauncey Golston is kind of holding us up, and Davion Nixon is playing outrageous. But I really want to see some more out of Noah Shannon. I think he's got a lot to give. Zach Van Valkenburg, he's got a lot to give too. And I think Jonathan Wagner is another big name that we really have to see some production out of this year. But in terms of good vibes, I said it last week, but our punt game is so good. Torrey Taylor is unbelievable, dude. He's averaging damn near 50 yards a punt, and he's giving us a chance in a lot of these games. So good for him.
And
love it.
Listeners, if you don't know a whole hell of a lot about football, about this podcast in general, if we're saying a punter is our good vibe 2 weeks in a row, there's a big fucking problem.
Yeah, you're right. But at the same time, talk about Big Ten football, it's all about field position, right? Torrey Taylor is flipping field position. He knows what he's doing. And I loved it today. He had a press conference. He's like, hey, Torrey Taylor, what are you doing? He's like, dude, all I'm trying to do is catch the ball, kick it as far as I fucking can. It's like,
I played a little footy growing up, and they told me I can go to school in America and kick a football.
Yeah, he asked 5 or 6 questions a game. All you gotta do is fucking catch and kick a ball. Good for you, dude. And he's killing it, man. Good for him.
Scooped him right up out of the outback.
Yes, sir.
Absolutely. And again, Torrey Taylor, I know I touched on it earlier, but special thanks to Pro Kick Australia. Essentially what they're doing is turning Aussie rules football players into American punters, and they're all over the place now. So you can't throw a stone at a college football stadium and not hit an Aussie anymore. So love it. We're stealing from down under.
Well, with that, guys, unless there's any more vibes we need to explain, I think we can go straight into predictions.
Let's do it. I'm going to go first because mine's going to be depressing, and this may be the first time on this show that I have ever picked the Hawkeyes to lose. Actually, no, I think I did one time last year, but unfortunately, I think Ricky White and, these receivers are going to be a little bit too much for our Hawks, and frankly, I don't think the secondary is up to the task, and, it's up to them to prove me wrong. So sorry that I'm not sorry. And the final score is going to be 28-17. And the bad guys are going to be on top winning in Kinnick Stadium.
You know what, Dill? I want to mirror that too. I always hate picking against the Hawks, but, this week we're 0-2 and we don't know how to win. We don't know, how to play football right now. And I think Michigan State has an edge coming up because they won a game, and I think they win 28-17.
Oh, that's literally same score even, huh?
Damn near, yeah, 28-17. I think they win.
Okay. What do you say, Rob?
Well,
be a homer. Give the people what they need.
I picked them to win 2 weeks in a row. They can't do it 3 weeks in a row. Okay.
There you go. I like it.
2 weeks in a row. They can't do it. I tried to Google while we were talking. When is the last time Iowa Hawkeyes went 0-3? Took me to some random websites. Couldn't find it. Have they gone 0-3 before? I'm sure they probably have at some point, but it hasn't been in recent memory, and it hasn't been before the year 2000, which is 20 years ago, believe it or not. So,
But not in the Kirk Ferentz era.
that's right. And like, I doubt it would have been in the Hayden Fry era.
Maybe early on in the Hayden era when he took over after Bob Cummins.
So that would have that's putting us early, what, 70s?
Yeah, mid to early to mid 70s.
So we're talking at least 30 something, 40, maybe 40 years.
Oh yeah, long time.
But hey, you know what? Stranger things have happened. It's 2020, but I will say, if you look at that over under, it's what, 46.5, I think, for the total scoring of the game. They don't really feel like it's going to be a high scoring affair. For me, I do think the Hawks come out with a win. I think that they're going to find a way to put it together. I think they're going to listen to the Hawkeyes and Tallboys when we say run the damn ball. I think they're going to run the ball. And I think that the final score for this game, in my predictions, is going to be Hawks 28-21.
I like it. 28-21, you said? I like it.
Yep. We win by a touchdown. I think that our defense has held points, to 20 points or about 20 points or less in the past few games, and I feel like we can do it again. So.
And okay, so I gotta interrupt us first before we quit here, Rob, because this guy that you see poking back here every now and then,
I wanted
yeah, that's our Nebraska correspondent, Blaine Hilgenkamp. Blaine, come on,
pull
my chair up here, Mr. Hilgenkamp. Yeah, teacher / coach Hilgenkamp. There he is.
/ coach.
Yeah, he just came from parent-teacher conferences. So
Virtual though, virtual. So it's a little different this year.
So he only had to look. He only had to look good on camera. So
just on camera.
He was naked with his nice shirt
exactly. Just nothing down there.
There you go.
Turn off that virtual background. Let me see you guys.
Yeah, me and Beau are messing it up. It's probably my fault.
But no, it's good. Blaine, I barely recognize you, man. 2020 looks good on you. You look real clean cut all of a sudden.
How many faces we can see? Hey, thanks, bud.
Oh, what'd you do there, Beau? I got to see myself. But anyways, okay, while we're trying to figure out how to show you, Blaine, tell us a little bit about your predictions for your matchup, the Nebraska Cornhuskers heading to Evanston to take on the Northwestern Wildcats, the greatest team in the Big Ten ever.
I just don't feel good about it. Northwestern has forced, eight or 7 turnovers in 2 games.
Mm-hmm.
And that's literally one of
there he is.
That's
there you go.
That's like a Scott Frost team. He's typical to turn it over. So I don't feel good. I mean, the line's 3.5 for Northwestern. I don't know. I just don't feel good about it. This is one of the games where Nebraska will have like 400 yards of offense, but lose by 14. It's just one of those games.
2 turnovers and whatnot.
Yeah.
Okay. What's your score prediction?
Oh shoot, we're probably looking
for the bettors out there because I see
for the bettors.
Yeah, Northwestern's favorite 3.5.
I would take the 3.5. You're probably looking like 38, 31.
Okay.
Something like that, or somewhere around
high
there.
scoring affair.
Yeah.
Okay.
I can see that.
Okay. Now, what say you to the rumors that Scott Frost is going to come resurrect the Hawkeye program and bring us?
I haven't heard that, but you can take Eric Shenander, our glorious defensive coordinator at ex-Hawkeye, and he can come and bring his Nebraska defense to Hawkeye Nation. I know Dill really likes some of that.
I think Scott Frost is going to have a little competition with Bob Stoops, but no,
actually, okay,
that's
that's funny. I heard a rumor going around Iowa City today. So it's not Bobby Stoops coming over to take over as a head coach, but supposedly,
director of
and again, this is total rumor, and again, I'll believe it when I see it for the record. But the rumor is that Bobby Stoops is going to come over and take over for Gary Barta as the athletics director.
I love it.
Yeah,
I would love it.
100% see that.
Would love it.
Really? Okay.
You know what name is floating around that I hear for like being contacted is It's not. Who's the Florida State head coach? Norvell is.
Norvell's?
Jay Norvell. Is that Jay?
Jay Norvell. Yep.
So
Jay Norvell.
Mike Norvell at Nevada.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh no, that's Jay. Jay's at Nevada.
Jay's at
Mike's
Nevada.
at
Yes.
Florida State.
Exactly.
Yep.
It's one of the Norvell brothers. I couldn't remember.
Yeah.
But the one at
Love it.
Nevada, he's got Hawkeye ties.
Love it.
He's coached there.
Jay played for Hayden Fry too.
Did correct. And that I've heard that name floating around. I don't know if you guys have talked about. Like Kurt, to me, it's up to Kurt.
Oh yeah, yeah.
It's up to him.
Yeah. Kurt
It's
has
his
his own way
discretion.
out, and
Yep.
And the only way I see that happening is if this season goes in the shitter, which for the record, I don't think that's going to happen.
Well, if Peters keeps throwing the ball 50 times a game, I don't see Iowa doing very well.
Oh, you missed that. You missed that.
Let me ask you, Blaine, let me ask you,
Absolutely
since you're
asinine.
our Nebraska correspondent, so you guys had a game canceled against Wisconsin, which I really actually was interested to watch. Unfortunately, weren't able to play due to COVID, but you guys lost to Ohio State, which was, understandable, 52-17 with them being the way that Ohio State are. But coming into Northwestern, tell us a little bit about, because I thought, 2 years ago when we were looking at your guys' quarterback, Adrian Martinez, and how he was just setting the world on fire. I was really expecting that Nebraska was going to come out with a kind of a world-beating type of offense, and they were going to be a really kind of a handful for us moving down the line. But I guess, talk about that and tell me about what your thoughts are with how things are going.
I mean,
It's too early.
to just compare about what Nebraska's offense can do, and the only team you've played is, in my opinion, the best team in the nation. I mean,
Yeah.
the only good thing, you threw 4 incomplete passes. You were 16 for 20 using 2 quarterbacks, and you ran for 210 yards. I think Penn
Yeah.
State had 40 last week against Ohio State, and you racked up 200. It's a matter of just not turning the damn ball over and just making 1 or 2 plays, like 3 fumbles against Ohio State. That's what made me nervous when watching Northwestern just come up with plays, and that's where Nebraska just has it. Especially in close games, they just don't make that play. So
Being that we lost to Northwestern and how their run game just seemed to wear us down, which was weird because that's what we want to do. I'm really interested to watch Nebraska play because I've been scared of Nebraska since Adrian Martinez took the helm, and I just think that they're going to be a team that is going to be able to put together some interesting stuff.
Kissing his ass.
I hope you're right.
I'm being honest.
I hope
Name
you're
another-
right, but
Name another quarterback besides somebody coming out of Ohio State that is mobile and can make plays happen the way that Adrian Martinez can.
yeah. And I guess the one good thing is the way Frost the way he game planned that, he put Luke McCaffrey at tailback 7 times, and then he had Luke McCaffrey in the slot 8 times.
Is that your backup quarterback?
Yeah, and he's using him in many different ways. He had one formation where he had Wandale Robinson behind Luke, who was in the pistol, and to Luke's right was Adrian, the starting quarterback. So I don't know if Scott's trying to be cute and gimmicky and hey, this is Ohio State. We're probably not going to beat them, so I'm just going to do a bunch of gimmicky stuff and not show anybody. Or maybe that's what Nebraska looks like the rest of the year, using 2 quarterbacks. I don't know. I'm the guy that's hey, this is my quarterback. He plays. And if Luke McCaffrey's a good enough receiver, well, hell, our Nebraska's receivers are terrible. Right. So why not just play him at receiver?
Question for you as well.
Oliver Martin.
Oliver Martin won't play this year.
He's hurt. I think he's hurt.
Oh, is he really?
Yeah, I think he's hurt.
I heard he's
Okay,
not.
so
But he's the go.
Luke McCaffrey, any relation to Christian McCaffrey?
The brothers.
And Dylan McCaffrey,
And
who played
from
at Michigan.
Where's he at now?
He transferred out somewhere. I forget.
Well, yeah, Joe Milton was taking his job.
Right, Dylan McCaffrey, not Dylan.
The big thing to me about Nebraska's offense is if there's 4 4-star receivers that are just on campus, and they're they're not really adapting to the Scott Frost mantra. Like, you're going to every class, you show up to everything on time. I'm going to say things that I'm going to give you things that are optional, but they're not optional kind of things.
That's weird. You better hope they don't come up with a $20 million lawsuit.
Like Omar Manning was the number one JUCO player in the nation last year. He's at Nebraska. He's a receiver. Didn't even travel to Ohio State, and everybody was wondering, and like there was like injury concerns, blah blah. It's like, and I heard through my sources like Omar is not hurt. Like Omar he's late to everything. He's hot shit, and like. One of Nebraska's, they have a 5-star from Florida, Marcus Fleming, is on Instagram Live 21 minutes before kickoff against Ohio State. Like you don't even need to have inside sources to find that out. You need to follow him on Instagram. Motherfucker is on Instagram Live in the locker room 21 minutes before kickoff. Not like before they go onto the field. Kickoff.
Was he doing something like
what are you doing? I don't care how good you are. And you know what? You know what his first series of the game was? With 4 minutes left in the game against Ohio State. So there's a couple people that are talented at Nebraska, but they need to figure it out. And you have to lay groundwork first, and I appreciate that, what Frost does, because at some point, those guys are either going to get it, and they're going to be phenomenal on the field, or they won't, and they'll transfer to some other school. And you know what? If that's what it is, it's what it is. So, man.
Yeah. Well, that game will be on 11 o'clock on Saturday against Northwestern.
But you guys won't see it because you'll be busy watching the Hawks.
I'll have 2 TVs. So.
Beat some Spartan ass.
So with that,
it's going to be like 300, but we're the Persians.
Is Michigan State not the most confusing Big Ten team?
Yes, without a doubt.
Like, why? Like, who are they?
We're going to find out Saturday.
Well, I'll go ahead and take us out with the old victory polka, but
and let's pray to God we hear that this week. Let's go. 6 seconds of hell. That Iowa defense needs to step up. We need to run the damn ball 55 times minimum. Only passes I want to see will be play action passes on 3rd down. That's all I want to see.
Exactly.
And then I still see Spencer Petras throwing 2 touchdowns. And we're going to have Tyler Goodson running 3 in as well. We're going to win. Let's go.
And we're going to win 55-0.
I love it.